Hi everyone, I'm Noah, and in this video I'm going to be discussing how to read faster. To help you follow along, I will be dividing this video into before you read, while you read, and after you read. Without further ado, let's get started. Going into this, you should know that there is an important obstacle to all that I'm about to teach you, and that is limiting beliefs. If you don't think that you can learn to be a faster, better reader than you currently are right now, then what I advise you in this video is not going to be useful. You need to believe that you are capable of reading faster because, as Henry Ford would say, whether you believe you can or can't, you're right. And so that's the first thing. If you take away your limiting beliefs, then your mind is working for you, not against you. Okay, so before you read, you should be recalling information from your past reading concerning what you're going to be reading now. So that would be uh, just before your bookmark. You'll see why that's important later in this video. Next, you should be scheduling your reading for 10-15 minutes every day. I have two reasons for advising this. One, if you don't consistently read every day, then you're just not going to be as fast of a reader as you're going to want to be. Reading, like any discipline, honestly, is just a game of reps. Two, you should be scheduling your reading every day. Otherwise, you're just probably not going to read unless you are one of those people who likes to keep everything they're going to do in their head all the time. In that case, you're just going to be cluttering your mind with a lot of information that you could just delegate to some device or calendar, which case you're just hurting your ability to focus on what you're reading. You don't want to constantly be thinking about what you're going to be doing at any given moment. Next, juggling. Wow, I look kind of handsome. Research shows that juggling can increase the gray matter in your brain, but also that it can increase your peripheral vision, which increases the amount of words that you could see per eye fixation. As a result, this will increase your reading speed. So get juggling. Next, you may have remembered one of those moments where you read a passage or section in a book and you are looking up at the ceiling because you forgot what you just read. As a correction to this, I would say define either a purpose or one or more questions about what you're going to read about. If I were, for instance, to ask a question about how I would improve my productivity, I would have my mind kind of look at my situation, look at my prospective situation, and then I can kind of bridge the gap. In other words, I have my mind looking for answers. Alternatively, if you use a purpose to focus on what you're reading, then that'll serve as like a why for what you're reading. In both cases, your mind is primed as a scavenger to look for information corresponding to what you're reading. If you got a purpose, a why, then you're going to want to read to satisfy that why. If you have a question, a what, then you're going to want to satisfy that what. Your mind just hates open loops. And so your mind is going to naturally try to satisfy that. Now to while you read. The first thing you want to do while you read is to use a pointer, an eye pacer, in other words, to guide your eyes into what you are reading. So if you don't do that, then you're going to be prone to regress, which is a big no-no. You should be able, once you get used to it, to increase your reading speed by 25% just by using the simple pacer over the eye technique. Next, we have the fixation technique. So basically how you use this technique is you fixate on each line. So it'd look like this. So what I am doing is I am basically putting my finger over the line and fixating on it, and then I move on to the next one. And so my peripheral vision will take in the words around it, and so I'm efficiently speed reading. Now, I know what you are thinking. Wait, no one knows what I'm thinking? Yes, you might not like this way of conducting your reading, and so I am introducing an alternative, which is space reading. It means, as its name implies, reading the spaces. Since pictures are worth thousands of words, this is what it looks like. Noah, why on earth would I read every space on the page? Isn't that a bit tedious at first? Possibly. You could probably try experimenting with going through every 2 to 3 spaces on the page. And so what will happen is as you keep reading, your peripheral vision will increase. And assuming you couple that with juggling, you're going to be able to read pretty fast at about around the same speed as, say, fixation technique. I personally recommend trying both so that way you know which one is best for you. I hope that clears some of the potential confusion there. Next, regression. Common culprit preventing you from reading faster is regression. You might think, oh, I have to go back to understand what was said, or I missed a word or so. But here's what happens. You lose flow in what you read. Typically, when a writer publishes a book, he or she will want to have each point kind of read and flowed through to your mind in a logical sequence. And when you go to one point and then you go back, that flow is disrupted. And so even if you do go back, you regress to understand that single point that was missed, your overall comprehension as a whole is hampered because you disrupted your flow. Another way to look at it, of course, is, say, watching movies. If you were to watch a scene in a movie and some annoying person in the back decides to pause it and rewind, I mean, that's going to obviously have an effect on the drama in sequence displayed upon you, and it's probably not going to have the same effect as, say, if you were to just watch it in one go. My advice to you is that you go into your reading session, and when your mind inevitably tells you to regress back because it's going to say, oh, you missed information, or I didn't quite understand that, resist the urge. Keep going. If you follow this advice, your mind will be forced to pay attention more, and as a result, you're going to be comprehending more and read faster. If you get insecure about information being lost, then I have 2 things to say. 1, what you read never results in perfect comprehension. 2, if you are worried, then I suggest that you reread the last section or chapter it is that you just read, and not just the exact line that you are unsure of. You'll get the information needed, and your mind will be like, crap, I need to pay attention to what I'm reading right now, or else I'm going to have to read this whole chapter or section all over again. Lastly, for while you read, have classical music on. It's classic for a reason. In particular, you want to have Baroque music on. This was actually proven to increase your learning efficiency and thus your comprehension. And as your learning gets better, you're going to be less prone to regress back to the previous line of what you're reading, and thus increasing your reading speed. So for this last section of reading faster, for after you read, you should be reading with the intention of teaching it. You might be doing this by writing down what you remember from what you read, or just talking to someone about it. Of course, an alternative is to just talk to yourself. Hi, Noah. My name's Noah. In either case of recollection, whichever you choose, you'll then go back to see what you missed. Remember what I said earlier in this video when I said you should recall the previous section or session of what you read before going to the next sequence. Combined with this, you have 2 in between gaps between your last reading session and your new reading session, which will then increase that retention muscle in your brain. This kills your brain's tendency to forget what was read. I'll give you a scenario. Say you are reading a book for the first time. You get into that book, you read it for an hour, and then you put it down, recall what was read, and then you look inside to see what was missed. Then you take a 10-minute break. Then right before you get back to that book to read the next section, you recall again what you just read, and then you look back in the book to see what was missed. And then you go back and read again, and the cycle repeats. Operating in this fashion is my advice to you. If you have questions but are shy about the comment section, which I understand, I am too, then you can just go to my email address, which is in the description below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.